Ryse, Son of Rome. We're on Xbox Series X, diving into this great single-player and partially a multiplayer type of experience. So the game isn't boosted, but it does have HDR support that looks absolutely gorgeous. The game is still an absolute blast, and actually one of my favorites from the early days of the Xbox One. It's quite fun. Now it is slightly repetitive to a degree, but it's still a really great time. I'm a huge fan of the Roman historic period. I love their armor, their kind of culture, their design. It's just kind of cool to see it come alive in this type of really narrative-focused experience that also had a lot of Kinect support. With that Kinect support obviously no longer working, which is kind of funny. And you can see that once we start firing arrows away and everything like that. Just very interesting. So in the game, you've got this set campaign, different difficulty options. You're doing hacking, slashing, fighting these bosses, kind of diving into these scary parts of this history as you take on the barbarian horde. It's kind of neat, and then you can pull off weird, neat executions once you kind of chain things together. Just generally a pretty good time. I had fun playing through the story. I thought it was decently lengthy. And yeah, then you get this like turbo ability. It's kind of fun to use and unleash on enemies as well, since you can chain up your executions a lot faster. That aside, we also will be showing off a little bit of the online, which was quite fun, where you get to do some gladiating, which is also kind of single player. You can play it by yourself too, which is kind of cool. But yeah, it's a very interesting game of its time. I think it was still to this day one of the standout visual kind of components of the original Xbox One. We're getting like a slightly boosted resolution here. The FPS is really perfectly smooth now, and yeah, it just kind of looks and plays a little bit better than it ever did back in the day. It's actually fantastic to be taking a look at this one again, or well, having an excuse to take a look at this one again, because I really did quite like this title. I found it very interesting and very enticing. It really was something a little bit unique, and I think really overlooked as a unique experience. And I think with the HDR, it might be worth giving a whirl, just because the game really does look quite a bit different. And it also loads a lot faster. So we're mostly showing off kind of points that should be non-spoilers to those that have never experienced the game before. You'll see like random combat sequences, but for those that have played the game, you'll be like, oh, I know exactly those parts. So this is the gladiating segment. This is like the online multiplayer. It was a cooperative thing, really. You get a pal, you go and you do gladiator battles, you entertain the crowd, you finish all these challenges, you take on barbarians. There's lots of different like objectives, like hitting pots to start fires, protecting a zone, etc, etc. I actually played this with a friend back in the day around the launch, and even afterwards we had a pretty good time, at least from what I remember. We actually spent some time working through it. It was a bit of a grind, though, I think, in actually kind of improving your character a lot, because there's all these different tiers and stuff, and the game does have that layering of kind of like improving your character to a degree. I think that's kind of cool. But yeah, I just remember it being a little bit of a pain to really get my gladiator kind of being strong, and even my main character in the regular campaign. But yeah, they had a good variation of objectives and goals, and then on top of that, there was all these different like levels and different changes within those levels, because the with the fun of the gladiator, the idea was, or the gladiator ring, the idea was you could have all these different shifting kind of events and or scenic moments, and they kind of played around with that. So you get like this one, like a bit of a sandstorm, and the positioning the towers and stuff could change during the match, and you could play with others online, again, play by yourself, play with friends. It was just an interesting addition to the game, because at that time, really all of the Microsoft games were pushing some sort of multiplayer component to them, and it kind of made sense. It was a fun way to do it. I don't know what else you would have done for multiplayer in this game. Jumping to the arena as a gladiator is kind of awesome. Actually, it'd be really neat to see this almost become like a spin-off. I don't think it'll ever happen at this point, but like a really intense sort of visually impressive gladiating game like this might be quite a lot of fun. I don't know if people would really be too into it, but I mean, if they blew it up a bit more, did it like as a free-to-play type thing, it might be able to work. It's kind of neat. I mean, they've got the base style here and everything like that. I really don't think that the core gameplay style has really aged out. It still feels really cool and looks really cool and has all these fun like cinematic moments, because you get the big lead in when you're going down into, well, not going down, but when you're coming up into the big stage. It's like, what? You know, it's kind of epic, and they handle that really well and kind of in a fun way. Yeah, it's an interesting game. There's not really a whole lot to talk about unless you dig deep into kind of the story elements of it, which makes it kind of hard, but you know, you get to visit some really cool locations. There's some really grim scenes, and every area is kind of a visual treat. I mean, visually, it's just quite gorgeous. The amount of detail, the style of the characters, they truly capture the whole Roman style of play. And yes, the melee combat, you know, at times, even now, I was like, yeah, it's a little repetitive, but I mean, it is a hack and slash game, so that's kind of also expected. I mean, you do get some really cool, like, dismemberment type things, and it's really gritty and dark and violent, which is kind of fun. But yeah, it's also just very cool historically, just the characters involved and the sort of missions you go on. I can't remember, I think it's also a bit of like a spiritual type thing included in this one. And they have these gorgeous cinematics with like stonework. And if you played the game, you kind of know what I mean. I didn't want to show any of them because they kind of heavily dive into, you know, kind of what's happening transitions-wise between the levels. But yeah, they're really great looking. But I think, and you know, you don't really see the visuals of like the HDR effect like you would when you're playing the game. It really does make like a huge difference. It looks really, really good. I'm surprised this game still, you know, it kind of makes a lot of games have kind of lower standards, I guess, for their visuals, because this one still looks really, really good. I'm genuinely shocked. I mean, the way the character moves, the fabric and stuff, that's not easy to do, and they kind of animate it beautifully. A wide range of enemies that you get to battle and kind of learn how to beat them, and then chain things together, and then there's like mega crazy barbarians too. I mean, you never know what kind of monstrous thing you're going to come across in the forest when you're just a Roman trying to improve the empire and expand outwards. It's not easy, but yeah, it's kind of a neat sort of game. I mean, if you like Roman history, like myself, I absolutely love that time period. Again, it's just really cool to me. You know, this one does kind of really transport you, and it does, like, I don't think there's many games out there that really are this particular time period, do this type of gameplay style. I think it's a very unique experience and definitely a lot of fun. Again, a decent campaign length, interesting multiplayer to jump into, and it's kind of just an enjoyable time. I really do quite like this one, but that's really all I have to say for it. If you can, definitely give Ryse Son of Rome a chance. I think you might at least have a little bit of fun with it, going out there and battling the hordes and kind of laughing at the Kinect integrated areas, because, you know, we all know how that went over, but it was actually fun using the Kinect back then. You could fight and be like, send the arrows in, or whatever they were, you know, and, you know, charge, and, yeah, it was kind of a fun little thing, and it's a shame that we can't still enjoy that. Whoa. Oh, your arm, oh no, ooh, shield hit to the head, and the fatality.
Good work. You men, secure this area. I will make haste to our commander. Rome shall not fall. Keep moving.